We open in a secret lab, an experimental site of horrors. Chained and broken, our main character, Ishua Han, endures the torment. His captors debate his fate, a life worth less than nothing. His thoughts drift to his sister, the only reason he's still fighting. The smirking villain moves in promising a slow, agonizing death, but a voice cuts through the darkness questioning their humanity. Before he can react, the villain is struck by an unseen force. His partner is instantly neutralized, a beam of light piercing his chest. And there she is, a mysterious woman making one heck of an entrance. Meet Wei Fengyu of the Star League here to save the day. With his chains severed, the other prisoners celebrate their newfound freedom. Wei Fengyu offers a steadying hand, her voice filled with concern. But his mind is elsewhere, frantically asking if her team has reached his sister. She tells him to wait for the other squad, but that's a non-starter for our boy. He turns his back on freedom. His only mission is getting his sister back. He pushes through the desolate corridors guided by a single desperate memory. He arrives to find a scene already in progress, a voice calling out for her brother. And there she is, his sister Yi Chu, standing before a stranger who looks eerily familiar. The imposter, a twisted copy of Yi Shuehan, urges her to come with him, and she believes him completely, overjoyed that her brother has come for her. A violent surge of energy rips through the room, a blur of purple light. The force tears them apart. His sister pulled away just out of his reach. Her desperate cries for help echo as she's dragged into the darkness. Ishuahin can only scream her name, powerless to stop the inevitable. Suddenly, he's ensnared by ethereal bindings, completely immobilized. Both he and his sister are slammed violently onto the cold, hard floor. Pinned down, his eyes burn with pure rage as he watches her suffer. And the man in charge finally shows up, apparently for a quality control check. This is Chris, a zombie summoner, and he's not happy with his creations. He casually pins Ichu down, taunting her brother for being so weak. Ishue Han pleads with Chris to leave his sister alone, claiming they're useless. The summoner looks down with cold amusement, acknowledging the boy's bravery. But he clarifies that Ishue Han is only half right about their worth. Ichio can only whisper her brother's name, her strength fading fast. A desperate cry rips from Ishue Han's throat, a plea of pure denial. With a blast of energy, Chris discards the sister, deeming her a useless failure. But his eyes lock onto Ishue Han, seeing a flicker of potential in the boy. A primal scream erupts from our hero, his sister's name echoing in his mind. Fueled by pure rage, he forces himself up, promising a bloody end for Chris. Chris dismisses the threat with a single word and a snap of his fingers. Chris holds him down, his summoned zombie looming just behind. Ishue Han screams defiance, warning of star beasts that will avenge them. But the summoner only scoffs, amused by the boy's empty threats. In an instant he's bound tight, a helpless puppet in Chris's game. Chris then reveals his trump card, a monstrous creature held in stasis. Our boy can only stare in horror, recognizing it as an S-ranked star beast. His own terrified reflection stares back from the creature's glowing eye. His subordinate warns that the Star League is coming, but Chris isn't leaving empty-handed. He orders his zombie to rip Ishue Han apart and claim the star bone within. But before the zombie can strike, the captive beast shatters its chains to intervene. The S-ranked star beast lets out a deafening roar, its eyes blazing with protective fury. Ishue Han can only watch, stunned by this impossible turn of events. With a surge of raw power, the creature snaps the final chain binding it. It effortlessly swats the zombie aside, sending it crashing into the wall. Now completely free, the beast stands as the new master of this room. In a swift motion, it scoops Ishue Han into its massive grasp. Our boy hangs limp, bloodied but still conscious of what's happening. The creature pulls him close, its glowing eyes fixed on the boy in its arms. Chris can only watch in horror as his grand prize decides to choose its own owner. Then the beast does the unthinkable, impaling Ishue Han on its very horn. As his life fades, Ishue Han can only wonder if this is the end. He laments a life unlived, a potential he never got to realize. In his final moments, he makes a vow to be strong if given another chance, but then consciousness returns in a place he never expected to see again. He jolts awake in a panic, the phantom pains of the lab still fresh in his mind. He's back in his own room, staring at a face from his past. It's his mother who trips in her haste, relieved that his fever has broken. He asks if she's really alive, a question most moms don't get on a Tuesday. His mother is completely baffled by his strange and frantic question. And as tears fill his eyes, Han begins to understand the impossible truth. He clings to his mother, recounting the horrible dream of star beasts and lost family. Alone in the bathroom, he can't shake the feeling that it was more than a dream. A phantom pain in his chest leads to a shocking discovery. On his chest is the mark where the star beast horn pierced him, proof of his rebirth. While his mom makes breakfast, the news confirms the impossible. He's traveled 2 years into the past. The broadcast reports on a Star Alliance victory against a terrorist group called the Stargazers. Commander Li Bai delivers a speech vowing to protect Earth from any invasion. But Han is stunned. In his timeline, the commander's death had already doomed them. The realization sends him into a panic, and he desperately asks where Chu Chu is. His mother calmly explains she's out with friends, heading to an escape room. His mind is set, his purpose clear. He will use this second chance to protect his sister. Without another word, he bolts out the door, leaving his confused mother behind. This time, he makes a silent vow to himself. He will not fail her again. He races towards the escape room, a place of cheap thrills and manufactured fear. But inside, the horror is anything but fake as a monster lets out a terrifying roar. The students scream in terror, caught completely off guard by the sudden attack. A brave young man steps forward, shielding Ichu and vowing to protect the others. Her friend teases that the actor is sweet on her, but Ichu insists it's all part of the game. But the creature lunging at them is definitely not just an actor in a suit, and their protector is swatted away like a fly, his heroic stand lasting all of 2 seconds. But just as the creature strikes, Han arrives, his glare alone stopping it cold. With impossible strength, he lifts the creature with one hand, stunning the onlookers. Ichu cries out in relief as her brother promises he's here to take her home. But her friends plead with her to stay, wanting to finish the final room. He reluctantly agrees to 20 more minutes, a decision he might soon regret. The would-be hero from before leads them towards an elevator for the final level. The elevator doors open to a dark, foreboding basement, putting everyone on edge. Before them stands a massive, imposing door unlike anything in a normal game. Our self-proclaimed expert explains they just need to push it open, which sounds way too simple. He puts his shoulder into it but can't make it budge, the door clearly not meant to be opened. Han mocks the boy's weakness, much to the flustered denial of Ichu's friend. He tells them to stop, explaining the door is likely locked as part of the game's design. Ignoring his own advice, he places his hands on the door, channeling a strange energy. With the others watching, he puts his full weight and power into forcing it open. But even with his enhanced strength, the door barely seems to budge. It finally gives way, revealing not a room but a shimmering portal to another world. Han stares in horror, recognizing it as a space rift for star beasts. His friends, however, think it's the coolest special effect they've ever seen. He screams at them not to touch it, warning them that this is no game. As one of them reaches out, Han grabs their arm, pulling them back from the brink. Han urges his sister and the others to escape and report the rift. But their escape is cut off as the elevator refuses to arrive. A man in a lab coat appears trying to placate the panicked students. He introduces himself as the class president, claiming the rift is perfectly safe. Han furiously refutes this, explaining the true danger of a star beast rift. He warns them that it's mature and could rupture at any second, but the president scoffs, pointing to a thin membrane as proof it's harmless. The would-be hero from before decides this is a great time to test that theory. He then smirks at Ichu, mocking her brother for being a coward. Han turns away in disgust, unable to reason with their fatal stupidity. Instead of heeding his warning, the students are captivated, wanting to touch the rift. Ichu's friend even stops to take a selfie, treating the portal like a tourist attraction. She tries to pull Ichu in for a live stream, hoping to gain followers from the spectacle. Ichu desperately tries to hold her back, but her friend is already lost in the moment. The rest of the group cheers them on, completely ignoring the imminent danger. And just as the class president poses for a photo, the harmless membrane begins to tear. A monstrous three-eyed beast emerges from the rift, its snarl silencing the room. The boy who mocked Han can only stare in abject horror, his courage gone. He's not alone. A pack of classy star beasts pours through the ruptured portal. The students' excitement turns to screams of terror as reality finally sets in. The self-proclaimed protector proves his valor by shoving a girl towards the monster, but just as its jaws are about to close, a metal rod blocks the attack. The beast's teeth grind against the pole, its killing blow completely thwarted. Ishuahan pulls his sister to safety, who finally understands the danger is real. Enraged, the creature shatters the metal rod with the sheer force of its bite. More beasts pour from the rift, and Ishuahan knows survival is their only goal. The other students devolve into chaos, trampling each other to escape. But he knows the crowded staircase is a death trap, not a path to safety. And just as he predicted, a beast looms over the stairwell eyeing its prey. The pack descends on the fleeing students as Ishuahan curses the masterminds. He grabs his sister, pulling her towards the only visible exit, but their path is blocked by a two-headed, three-eyed star beast. Thinking fast, he pulls them both into a large stone chest for cover. She's terrified, but he knows running is a death sentence against these creatures. He shoves her deeper into the cramped space, trying to keep them hidden. The heavy stone lid slams shut, sealing them in darkness. In the pitch black, he suddenly asks for her perfume. He douses them both in the strong scent, a rather unorthodox survival tactic. He explains it's to mask their scent from the beast's keen noses. And just in time, as the creatures begin sniffing right outside their hiding spot, the beast's glowing eyes scan the room, its nose pressed right against their hiding spot. Yikshuihan holds his breath, the tension inside the cramped chest almost unbearable. His sister is frozen in fear, barely able to keep from crying out. Outside, the sounds of the massacre confirm their worst fears. Tears stream down her face as she realizes what's happening to her friends. He shields her from the horror, explaining their perfume trick should hold. But their moment of hope is shattered by a sudden blinding flash of light. An explosion rips through the basement, incinerating the entire pack of beasts. A new player enters, more concerned with his Stargazer Club promotion than the carnage. Yishrahan's blood runs cold. He knows that name all too well. From the darkness, Yishrahan wonders why this terrorist group is here. A leader from a mercenary group called Harvest Sight shares his concerns, but the Stargazer representative simply grins, a man with a sinister plan. He explains they chose this rift to let the beasts clear the area for them. Now he demands to see the payment, high-level star beast cores. A box opens to reveal a brilliant pulsating crystal of immense power. The Stargazer boasts of 4 advanced cores, each with a different function. This is new information for Ishuahan, something he never learned in his past life. But the deal is cut short as the Stargazer senses something is wrong. The mercenary leader orders a search because witnesses tend to ruin secret evil deals. The mercenary leader is furious, ordering his men to tear the place apart. Inside the chest, Ishuahan and his sister know their time is up. One of the mercenaries zeroes in on their hiding spot, the only place left unchecked. The Stargazer representative grins, announcing his discovery to the room. But Ishuahan explodes from the chest, delivering a surprise facial reconstruction. He's shocked to see more mercenaries already rushing towards him. He vaults over the stone chest, closing the distance in an instant. The mercenary can only marvel at his impossible speed before being caught. With a swift motion, he slams the man head first into the stone floor. His only thought is to keep his sister hidden no matter the cost. Without hesitation, he rips the blade from his first victim. He spins into a fluid motion, cutting down a second mercenary in a flash. A third man tries to grab him, but Ishuahan slides under his reach effortlessly. He breaks into a sprint, shouting a challenge for them all to follow him. The mercenary leader is stunned, realizing one of the students somehow survived. He orders 2 of his subordinates to chase the boy and find out who he works for. Ishuahan glances back to see his new pursuers closing in fast. The white-haired mercenary leaps forward, his sword glowing with a powerful energy. He taunts Ishuahan for being powerless, but our boy is shocked by his speed. A vicious kick sends Ishuahan crashing through the concrete floor below. He crashes to the floor below, coughing up blood from the brutal impact. His pursuers loom over him, demanding to know which organization he represents. Ishuahan plays the part of a terrified student, begging them to let him go. But the act was a ruse. He hurls a fire extinguisher and makes a break for it. The mercenaries scoff, ordering his capture for a little enhanced interrogation. But a confident smirk crosses his face. Everything is going according to plan. Suddenly, a wall of fire erupts, cutting off his pursuers completely. The fire extinguisher detonates in a massive explosion, a cleverly laid trap. The blast knocks one mercenary out cold, leaving his partner vowing bloody revenge. But Ishui Han stands ready with his blade, suggesting forgiveness is not on the menu. Ishui Han explains his trap was far more calculated than they realized. The mercenary screams in rage, but Ishui Han calls out his hypocrisy. He lunges forward, delivering a swift and painful blow to his opponent. He mocks the mercenary, asking if it hurts to be outsmarted by a normal kid. He twists the knife, asking how it feels to be defeated by the powerless. With a final brutal slash, he ends the confrontation for good. He stands over his fallen foe, the dust settling around him. But he knows this is far from over. More enemies are surely on their way. He realizes he needs a new strategy as a second wave is inevitable. Just then, a familiar voice cuts through the smoke. His sister is safe. The mercenary leader appears, holding E2 hostage and mocking Ishui Han's failed rescue. Ishui Han screams in defiance, bringing his blade down with everything he has. But his desperate attack is stopped cold by a single supercharged hand. A blast of raw energy sends our hero flying across the room. He crashes to the ground, realizing he's completely outmatched. The leader dismisses him as a nobody and prepares to end Icho's life. His sister can only watch in terror, her last hope fading. But even from the floor, Ishui Han vows he will never abandon her. The villain finds their bond amusing because nothing says evil like mocking family ties. He unleashes a brutal energy attack, forcing Ishui Han to watch his sister suffer. He holds his sister close, her life fading as he vows never to leave her side. A desperate cry rips from his throat, questioning why his second chance is ending the same way. The leader taunts him, promising to send him to join his sister in death. But just as the final blow is about to fall, a brilliant golden light fills the room. The mercenaries are caught in the blast, their bodies turning to dust. A powerful voice rings out, ordering the stargazers to stand down. The terrorists panic, realizing the Star Refusal League has arrived and it's time to bail. Ishui Han looks on, confirming his intel was correct all along. And there she is, a blonde warrior wreathed in golden light, the cavalry in the flesh. She introduces herself as a soldier of the League, offering a promise of protection. Ishui Han recognizes his savior, the same woman from the secret lab. The mercenary leader seethes with rage, furious at the League's interference. He lunges forward to attack, but Ishui Han can only shout a desperate warning. The blonde warrior calmly analyzes his power, identifying it as light-based. She notes his potential, admitting he could have been a real problem for her side. But, unfortunately for him, potential doesn't win fights in the present. She forms a blade of pure energy, ready to end the confrontation for good. Her attack connects instantly, slicing through the mercenary leader with ease. Wei Frostfish, a B-ranked psychic, scoffs at her C-ranked opponent's weakness. With the fight over, she calls for the team doctor to tend to the wounded. Ishui Han desperately pleads with the medic, ignoring his own injuries. The medic confirms the worst, a fatal wound through her heart and lungs. Ishui Han's world shatters, the same nightmare playing out all over again. Just then, a soldier presents a bag of star beast cores found on the enemy. A desperate idea forms. He begs them to use a core to save his sister's life. But Wei Frostfish refuses, explaining the core could turn her into a monster. She points to the fallen mercenary as proof of the horrific transformation. She tries to reason with him, understanding his pain but firm in her refusal. Suddenly a call comes in. The enemy is cornered, but there's another rift. Seizing the distraction, Ishui Han snatches the bag of cores, his only hope. Wei Frostfish orders her team to stop him, furious at his desperate gamble. But it's too late. Ishui Han tosses a glowing core towards his sister's body. The other soldiers can only watch in stunned disbelief at the reckless act. The core's energy flows into Ishui, a swirling vortex of green light. Ishui Han watches with a relieved smile as his sister's life returns. The medic confirms the impossible. Her fatal wound is gone, and she's stable. The other soldiers are left questioning how a normal kid outmaneuvered them all. Even Wei Frostfish admits she was too slow as Ishui Han celebrates his victory. She notes the rarity of this event and orders the doctor to watch over the girl. But Ishui Han insists on joining them, and she agrees to keep him close. A soldier reports that the cornered stargazers chose death over capture. Wei Frostfish interrogates a survivor, but he'd rather die than talk. Her frustration grows as the mercenary remains stubbornly silent. but Ishuahan steps in, suggesting a less gentle approach. He immediately slams the man's head against the wall, skipping the pleasantries. The mercenary is left bloodied and stunned by the sudden brutality. Ishayan threatens to get the answers one way or another with extreme prejudice. The other soldiers can only watch, shocked by the kid's ruthless efficiency. Wei Frostfish decides to leave him to it, turning her attention to the rift. She and her team begin the process of sealing the dangerous portal for good. Her subordinate panics, realizing their combined energy isn't closing the rift at all. Wei Frostfish is baffled. Something is actively keeping this portal from collapsing. Meanwhile, Ishuahan tells the soldiers the captive is hiding something important. He pries the man's jaw open, determined to find what he's concealing, and pulls out a bag, accusing the man of hiding a star beast core in his mouth. After that lovely discovery, he asks for a place to wash his hands. But a strange shadow on the wall catches his attention, putting him on high alert. A reptilian star beast drops from the ceiling, lunging at the unsuspecting group. But a single well-placed shot intercepts the creature mid-attack. Wei Frostfish orders him to drop the cores, realizing they're bait for the beast. The soldier screams for the others to run as the beast closes in for the kill. Wei Frostfish unleashes a volley of shots, but they ricochet harmlessly off its scales. The creature activates a stealth ability, blending perfectly into the shadows. Ishuahan realizes this is no low-level beast. It's fast, strong, and can turn invisible. It reappears in a flash, taking another soldier completely by surprise. His eyes lock onto the bag of cores, the very thing the creature is after. The beast ignores the soldiers, its entire focus now on Ishuahan and the prize. He knows he can't let it get the cores, reaching for the bag with grim determination. But instead of the bag, his hand closes around the hilt of a fallen soldier's sword. Armed and ready, he faces the creature, realizing just how outmatched he truly is. Wei Frostfish unleashes another volley of energy blasts, determined to stop the creature. She leaps into the fray, vowing to end the monster's rampage for good. But just like before, the creature vanishes into thin air, its stealth ability reactivated. Ishuahan knows they only have a split second to react when it finally strikes. He looks at the high-level core in his hand, realizing it's the ultimate bait. But instead of using it as bait, the core's energy begins to flow directly into him. He screams in agony as the raw, untamed power surges through his veins. The Star League soldiers can only watch in horror as the boy is consumed by the energy. The power twists his features, a dark crystalline pattern spreading across his face. Wei Frostfish recognizes the sign instantly. He's being overwhelmed by the core's power. The reptilian beast lunges its maw wide open to devour the transformed boy, but Ishuahan meets the attack head-on, his fist crackling with raw energy. Wei Frostfish knows she has to act fast before the transformation is complete, but he moves in a blur, his newfound speed catching even her by surprise. He lands a brutal punch, sending the Star League soldier flying. She can only plead with him to stop, realizing he's completely lost control. But inside his mind, Ishuahan fights a desperate battle against the core's influence. A vision appears, the S-ranked star beast, telling him to embrace this power and survive. He recognizes the creature from the lab, demanding to know why it sent him back. The beast's only answer is an ominous offer to borrow his body for a while, but Ishuahan refuses to be a puppet, claiming he's the one in control. He accepts the beast's power, vowing to destroy every enemy in his path. Meanwhile, Wei Frostfish prepares her own attack, knowing her team's lives are at stake, but her energy scythe shatters against his newly hardened skin. He turns to her with a chilling warning, telling her to watch her back. The reptilian beast reappears, lunging at her from the shadows, but a golden shockwave sends the creature flying before it can strike. Ishuahan is suddenly behind her, his hand on her back telling her not to move. She's understandably flustered by the sudden and slightly inappropriate rescue. He channels the overwhelming energy into her, his own body at its breaking point. He leaps into action, sword in hand, ready to face the reptilian beast. He recalls how his enemies use their powers, searching for a way to unleash his own. He channels the raw energy into the blade, preparing a devastating attack. The beast is completely obliterated, vanishing in a blinding flash of light. The transformation recedes, and Ishuahan feels the overwhelming power finally stabilize. Her soldiers cry out in concern, but she's focused on the boy who just saved them. She explains he's awakened his powers, recognizing his immense and immeasurable potential. Sometime later, they arrive at the Star League's base of operations. Wei Frostfish watches over him, trying to make sense of his feverish sleep-talking. But even in sleep, his vow is clear. All who stand in his way are his enemies. Ishua Han wakes up to find Wei Frostfish leaning over him, a little too close for comfort. He pushes her back, demanding to know where he is as she explains he was talking in his sleep. She confirms they're in a special hospital and congratulates him on awakening his psychic powers. But he couldn't care less, frantically grabbing her and asking where his sister is. Wei Frostfish explains Ichu was sent to a Main Star Alliance hospital and is no longer in danger. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of a man in a crisp green uniform. He introduces himself as Vice Captain Yuan Rue, here to see the newly awakened psychic. He also brings a message from her captain, prompting her to check her battle-damaged phone. As she rushes off to make the call, the vice captain calmly waves her on. Yuan Rue offers a handshake, but Ishua Han's only concern is when he can see his sister. The vice captain offers a deal, a quick power test, then a reunion with his sister. I leads Ishua Han to a secluded, soundproof room, perfect for an evaluation. But the friendly act drops, revealing his true motive. He wants the Star Beast core. Ishua Han feigns ignorance, claiming he knows nothing about the powerful artifact. The vice captain's patience runs out, threatening extreme violence to get what he wants. Without warning, he unleashes his power, sending thorny vines to ensnare our hero. But Ishua Han moves with surprising speed, shattering the attack with a single punch. The vines quickly reform, wrapping around his leg in a classic case of don't run. He slammed against the wall, completely at the mercy of the vice captain's power. Yuan Rui offers one last chance, but Ishua Han questions the legality of this shakedown. Ishua Han taunts his captor, accusing him of trying to steal credit for the mission. He offers a deal promising to reveal the core's location if the vice captain leans in. The vice captain falls for it, leaning in close to hear the secret location. But instead of a secret, he's met with a blindingly fast attack. In a flash, Ishua Han severs the vines and lands gracefully on his feet. He holds up a crystal shard, mockingly asking how the vice captain dodged his little surprise. Enraged, Yuan Rue accuses him of being a stargazer spy, a convenient excuse for this beatdown. The vice captain gives chase, calling him a fool for trying to flee, but he's stunned by the boy's speed, recognizing an advanced movement technique. Ishua Han effortlessly weaves through the attacks, leaving the vice captain fuming in his wake. But just as things get ugly, Wei Frostfish bursts in, demanding to know what's happening. Isri Han sees the attack still coming, screaming a desperate warning for her to get back. He leaps in front of her, shielding her from the vice captain's thorny assault. In a blur of motion, he scoops her into his arms, pulling her from the path of danger. He holds her effortlessly, much to her flustered surprise. Guess chivalry isn't dead, just really fast. The vice captain is furious, accusing her of protecting a suspect and failing her mission, but she stands her ground, claiming Ishua Han is under her protection now. Yuan Rue mocks her lower rank, but she's clearly done with the conversation. A massive wave of energy erupts between them, sending everyone flying. Ishua Han is pinned by an immense pressure, completely unable to move. A powerful voice cuts through the tension, ordering the two vice captains to stand down. Both Yuan Rue and Wei Frostfish are stunned into silence by the sudden intervention. The source of the interruption is revealed, two powerful figures standing in the doorway. It's none other than Commander Li Bai, an S-class psychic, and his subordinate Wu Liang. Ishua Han is floored. This is the legendary commander he thought was long dead. The bickering vice captains immediately snap to attention, questioning the commander's presence. The commander explains he was nearby for a meeting and decided to drop in. And by drop in, he means delivering a swift, painful lesson to the insubordinate vice captain. He calmly explains the simple hierarchy of power. He's stronger, so he's in charge. And just to make his point crystal clear, he unleashes a blast of pure energy. The blast sends Yuan Rue hurtling across the room, a painful lesson in respecting your superiors. Yisrei Han can only stare, stunned by the sheer speed and power on display. He realizes the commander's subordinate also moved in a blur, a feat the commander silently acknowledges. In a flash, Wu Liang appears midair to catch the disgraced vice captain. He offers a less than sincere apology for his leader's rather direct methods. The rescue quickly devolves into humiliation as Yuan Rue loses his pants in the process. The commander feigns deafness to the complaints, clearly enjoying the show. Commander Li Bai then turns to Wei Frostfish, officially closing the case on the lost core. He declares that Ishua Han has no connection to it, much to her complete surprise. The legendary commander then makes a rather unprofessional comment, admiring her physique. Wei Frostfish is absolutely mortified, her professional demeanor shattered by the commander's comment. His subordinates can only whisper about their leader's complete lack of professionalism. With the immediate crisis handled, the commander leads his team away from the room, but their exit is blocked by a swarm of reporters hungry for a statement on their plans. He promptly throws Wei Frostfish to the wolves, declaring her the new spokesperson. Wu Liang explains this is the commander's classic move for dodging the press. He offers Yi Shuehan some water, a small kindness amidst the chaos of command. Wu Liang extends an invitation to join the league, but Yi Shuehan voices his doubts. He recalls how this very organization crumbled in his past life after the commander's death. But the commander returns with a tempting offer, mentioning he's spoken to his sister's doctor. Yi Shuehan realizes the commander is using his sister's health as leverage, so he launches into a laundry list of demands for emotional and physical damages. He then declares he'll be taking the vice captain's share of cores as compensation. But the commander cuts him off, revealing that his mother has arrived at the base. He rushes to embrace her, apologizing for failing to protect his sister. He then announces his decision to join the league, seeing it as the only path to safety. His mother sees the unshakable resolve in his eyes, a look she can't argue with. She tearfully accepts, begging him to stay safe for both her and his sister's sake. He makes a silent vow to himself. This life will be different no matter what. He learns that his sister's recovery requires a massive number of cores each month. Ishui Han knows the league's resources alone won't be enough for his sister. His train of thought is interrupted by the arrival of some unwelcome attention. A rich kid in a convertible pulls up, mocking him for carrying a heavy bag. Meet Long Wei Kai, son of the city's second richest man, a title he clearly adores. Ishii Han recognizes him as an old-school rival, wondering what he could possibly want. But the mention of his father's ranking sends Wei Kai into a comical rage. Unimpressed, Ishue Han simply ignores him and heads for the bus stop. He boards the bus, leaving the fuming rich boy in his dust. But as he gets on, his bag opens to reveal a startling collection of knives. The other passengers recoil in terror as he tries to explain it's for an internship. His mother just smiles while Ishua Han questions her choice of internship supplies. Unsurprisingly, the bus driver refuses to let the kid with an arsenal on board. His classmates mock him, asking if he plans to chop vegetables with his new collection. The bully brags about his father securing him a top-tier internship with the league. He then offers Ishua Han a spot, but only if he agrees to be his lackey. Ishua Han ignores the taunts, completely uninterested in their petty games. But their conversation is cut short by the arrival of a very flashy sports car. Out steps a man with an air of effortless cool, clearly someone important. The bullies assume he's their ride, but the man seems less than thrilled with the attention. Long Wei Kai eagerly introduces himself, trying to buddy up with the new arrival. But the man walks right past him, completely ignoring the rich kid's attempt at networking. He stops in front of Ishua Han, announcing he's here to escort him to psychic training. He then puts a finger to his lips, a silent signal for our boy to just play along. The bullies are stunned, realizing they just insulted a powerful psychic being personally picked up by a captain. Their tune changes instantly as they beg for forgiveness, but Ishua Han has no interest in leading a fan club. The captain gestures to the car, explaining that Ishua Han is expected as the newcomer representative. Long Wei Kai can only stare in disbelief, his world completely upended by this revelation. With that, they speed off, leaving the stunned bullies choking on their exhaust fumes and shattered egos. In the car, Ishua Han questions the captain's motives for the rather dramatic entrance. The captain just smirks, asking if he enjoyed the show, much to Ishua Han's clear annoyance. But Long Wei Kai isn't done, screaming that the captain's car is too trashy for the alliance. The captain glances in the mirror, amused that the rich kid is actually trying to race him. With a manic grin, he tells Ishua Han to sit tight as his fist crackles with power. Ishua Han looks on in shock as a powerful blue aura envelopes the driver. The entire car is supercharged, blasting down the highway at impossible speeds. Ishua Han can only scream, clearly not a fan of psychic-powered joy rides. The captain laughs triumphantly, completely ignoring his passengers' pleas to watch the road. They swerve around a massive truck coming inches from a very messy end. Ishue Han finally exhales, having survived the most dangerous car ride of his life. The captain's playful demeanor vanishes, asking if Ishue Han killed those mercenaries back at the rift. Ishue Han reflects on the killing, a grim necessity for his future self, but a heavy burden for his younger body. He frantically explains he had no choice, but the captain just smiles, saying he's only curious. Seeing an opening, Ishue Han turns the tables, asking a question of his own. He asks what happens when someone consumes a high-level star beast core. The captain explains that consuming an advanced core guarantees a monstrous transformation. He realizes Wei Frostfish must have assumed he'd already consumed it, and that confessing now would make him a science experiment. They arrive at a sleek modern building, the end of their little joyride. Captain Wu Liang explains this is as far as he goes, leaving Yixue Han to take a train to the base. But he leaves him with a chilling warning: hide his powers, because the stargazers are hunting people like him. Ishue Han simply smiles, accepting the danger as just another part of his new mission. He takes the captain's advice to heart. If he finds stargazers, he should relieve them of their cores. With his mission clear, he boards a high-speed train, beginning the long journey to the training base. 2 days later, he finds himself in the train's bathroom, the isolation giving him time to reflect. He wonders about Wave Frostfish, his thoughts soured by the captain's annoying and cryptic attitude. A sudden outburst reveals his true feelings. He just wants a normal life, not this path of a warrior. But his moment of angst is cut short by a sudden commotion just outside the door. The source of the chaos is none other than Ing Yuan, the city's richest heir, and his childhood nemesis. Just then, Star Alliance officers push through the crowd, announcing their intent to make an arrest. But Ing Yuan blocks their path with a makeshift barricade, defiantly screaming about his freedom. In a stunning display of recklessness, he leaps from the speeding train to escape his pursuers. The lead officer, Tian Chi, unleashes his mud puppet ability, vowing to bring the escapee back. But Ing Yuan creates a chaotic distraction, throwing cash to a desperate crowd. The officers are blocked by the money-crazed mob, screaming in frustration at their fleeing target. Suddenly, a mud puppet springs from the ground, ensnaring Ing Yuan's leg mid-escape. The puppet yanks him back towards the train, a rather undignified end to his grand escape. The officers are stunned, assuming a star beast has snatched their target and ordering a pursuit. But it's Ishue Han who intercepts him, moving in a blur that leaves the rich kid completely baffled. Dragged into a quiet corner, Ing Yuan's bravado vanishes as he begs for mercy. He even offers up his father's bank details, introducing himself with a name that sounds oddly familiar. Ishue Han freezes, realizing only one person from his past ever called him by that specific nickname. Ishue Han greets him with a knowing smile, confirming it's been a long time. A memory flashes back, a time when that nickname earned Ing Yuan a swift beatdown. But the friendly reunion takes a dark turn, his smile twisting into something else entirely. He slams the rich kid's head down, demanding to know who he was planning to marry. Ing Yuan panics, grabbing his arm and begging for help to escape his pursuers. But his escape is cut short as the mud puppet ensnares his leg once more. The Star Alliance officers corner him, their leader smirking in triumph. Elsewhere, a mysterious girl in a cat hoodie taunts a captive, questioning his right to live. Her demonic little puppet agrees, unleashing a deadly beam of energy at the helpless boy. She then unleashes her own power, a terrifying control over iron powder, and the boy can only scream. She casually dismisses her fallen subordinate, a B-rank beast tamer named Senshu. Her orders are simple and brutal: hunt down the Star League and steal their cores. Her true motive is revealed, a burning desire for revenge and to revive her fallen comrades. Back on the train, Ing Yuan argues his case, refusing to be forcibly recruited. But inside the bathroom, Ishue Han has his eyes on the emergency stop button. With a decisive slam, he triggers the train's emergency sprinkler system. Water rains down, drenching the struggling rich kid and his mud-based captor. The mud puppet begins to dissolve, its form melting away under the sudden downpour. The officers can only watch as their ultimate weapon is defeated by basic plumbing. Tianchi confronts our boy, who calmly questions their rather aggressive recruitment tactics. Ing Yuan is furious, demanding to know why Ishue Han didn't speak up sooner. But there's no time for explanations as Ishue Han yanks him out of harm's way. The officer, Tianchi, lectures them on responsibility, vowing to bring them in. But Ing Yuan argues he's no hero and just wants to live a normal life. Tenchi's patience wears thin, reminding them that kidnapping is a serious crime. Ishua Han steps in using a piece of the train's interior as a makeshift shield. The officer's energy blade shatters the panel, a clear display of superior power. Our boy can only grit his teeth, realizing he's completely outmatched in equipment. Tenki warns the newcomer to stand down or face the consequences for obstruction. His partner agrees, preparing to unleash his mud puppet ability once more. The mud puppet reforms in an instant, ensnaring Ishua Han completely. The officer decides a good old-fashioned beatdown is the best recruitment tool. But before they can act, Ing Yuan grabs a pipe ready to make a stand. He screams his defiance, refusing to be dragged away like some common criminal. But the real power in the room awakens as Yi Shuihan's eyes begin to glow. The officers freeze, their mind suddenly caught in a powerful hypnotic suggestion. In their minds, the rich kid is now wielding a cannon, because of course he is. He fires a volley of phantom projectiles, each one finding its mark in their minds. The officers scream in imagined pain, completely overwhelmed by the mental assault. And through it all, Ishua Han stands perfectly still, the true source of their terror. The officers are pummeled by phantom water cannons, a painful lesson in underestimating the quiet kid. Ishua Han is stunned, realizing his childhood rival actually has powers of his own. Ing Yuan admits he's a newly awakened D-level psychic, still figuring things out. A few moments later, the tables have turned with the officers tied up and begging for mercy. Ing Yuan then proceeds with a rather unorthodox method of silencing his captives. He stuffs a sock in the officer's mouth, proudly declaring he's the best at what he does. With their pursuers neutralized, Ing Yuan suggests they just ditch them and run. He explains he'll tag along with Ishua Han, but reserves the right to flee at any moment. Ishua Han agrees to help him escape later, but insists they're taking the officers with them. He remembers the captain's warning. The stargazers are hunting new psychics, and they can't leave anyone behind. They march their captives through the station right past a group of very confused officers. Ishuan calmly explains they're just taking out the trash, a story the gagged officers can't exactly refute. But Ing Yuan has a better idea, flashing a VIP card that makes the station staff's jaws drop. He demands the full first-class treatment using his family's wealth to secure their escape. An entire squad of uniformed attendants materializes, ready to serve their new masters. The power of money is on full display as the staff stands at perfect attention. They're given a full honor guard escort, a rather grand exit for a couple of kidnappers. Ing Yuan strikes a pose, calling this his version of keeping a low profile. Sure it is, buddy. With their escape secured, they drag their captives into the nearest men's room. The officer Tianchi struggles against his bonds, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Elsewhere, a Stargazer member kneels before his superior, pleading his case. But a demonic puppet calls him a liar, accusing him of letting the League steal the core. The scene shifts to a much brighter, more luxurious setting. A lavish spread of food and drink is laid out before them. Ing Yuan laments his bad luck, complaining he was busy learning to fly planes in Hawaii. The two officers can only marvel at the sheer, unapologetic wealth on display. With the officers now subdued, Ishua Han asks his rival how he awakened his powers. He explains he bit an emerald to test it, accidentally consuming a star beast core. Ishua Han wonders if his sister could also gain powers from a core, just as he did. The officers change their tune, offering to forget the whole incident if Ing Yuan helps them. Ing Yuan leans in, intrigued by their sudden willingness to negotiate. But their request is less about a deal and more about wanting another hit of his illusion powers. Insulted, Ing Yuan sends the two fanboys flying with a single frustrated punch. Ishua Han stands over the three unconscious men, knife in hand, taking control of the situation. He begins to untie the officers, explaining his plan to spin the story in their favor. His old rival can only marvel at how much darker Yi Shuihan has become, but their moment of scheming is cut short as our boy senses an imminent danger. He tackles Ing Yuan to the floor just as the side of the train is ripped apart. The entire high-speed train is rocked by a violent external assault, and in a cloud of steam and screeching metal, their journey comes to an abrupt and violent stop. The other passengers scream in terror as the train car is torn open. Ing Yuan can only wonder if this is some kind of terrorist attack. Ishua Han hits the floor hard, blood dripping from a fresh wound. The officer Tianchi rushes to their side, his earlier hostility forgotten. Ishua Han shouts back that they're fine, asking if the officers are okay. Tianchi smirks, claiming it's their duty to protect the newcomers. A man outside introduces himself as Orion Senju of the Stargazer Society. He issues a chilling ultimatum. Evacuate the train or he'll attack every 10 seconds. The name sends a shockwave through the group. The captain's warning was right. Tenchi explains stargazers are fused with powerful beasts as his partner finds the signal is blocked. Ishue Han takes command, explaining their only option is to blend in and escape. The train erupts into chaos as panicked passengers scramble for the exits. Tenchi orders his men to protect the two newcomers and find a way to call for backup. They join the desperate exodus, a river of humanity flowing towards an uncertain escape. Amidst the stampede, a girl in a cat hoodie stumbles, crying out for her lost puppet. Her strange demonic toy lies forgotten on the floor, dropped in the confusion. A kind stranger returns it, urging her to run for her life and not worry about possessions. She offers a quiet word of thanks as the young man turns to rejoin the crowd. But her innocent facade drops, revealing a predatory grin as she calls him a good person. Ing Yuan wants to fight, but Ishue Han knows they'd only be a burden against a B-class threat. Orion Senju unleashes a volley of energy blasts, his face twisted in a predatory grin. The crowd scatters as the blasts tear through their ranks with Ishue Han watching intently. He and Ing Yuan realize with dawning horror that the stargazers are hunting them. The panicked passengers are thrown back by the force of the assault. The stargazer cuts off their escape, herding the terrified crowd like cattle. Amidst the chaos, the girl in the cat hoodie is cornered, calling her attacker a monster. Orion Senju grabs her, using the girl as bait to draw out his real targets. Ishue Han recognizes the girl, debating whether to risk revealing themselves to save her. Just as the stargazer prepares to strike his hostage, his focus is suddenly broken. Officer Tianchi appears behind him, his own energy blade drawn, ordering him to stand down. Ishue Han tells his friend he's going to help, urging him to find another way out. But the girl in the cat hoodie watches with a sinister, knowing smile. Orion Senju taunts his opponent, telling him to stop struggling uselessly. Officer Tianchi leaps into the fray, his energy blade ready to strike. He lands a direct hit, slicing through the stargazer's chest with a flash of light. For a brief moment, the officer believes he's actually won the fight, but his victory turns to horror as spikes erupt from his own body. The brutal counterattack impales him from within, a truly gruesome end. Orion Senju just laughs, revealing the officer's attack didn't even hurt him. So much for that heroic moment. He then grabs the other officer, tossing him aside like a rag doll. Orion Senju catches the second officer, taunting him for striking his transformed arm. The officer struggles furiously, screaming for the stargazer to let him go. He tries to summon his mud puppet, but the shadowy binding holds him fast. In response, Orion unleashes a devastating volley of bladed projectiles. But the officer refuses to back down, channeling all his energy for one final stand. He moves in a blur of motion, unleashing a powerful counterattack of his own. Orion Senju can only stare in shock as the officer appears right behind him. Watching from afar, Ing Yuan wonders if he just witnessed the impossible. But he realizes something is wrong. The other officers are still bound and unresponsive. The heroic officer is now wounded as Tianchi rushes to his side, telling him to check on the girl. The wounded officer rushes to the girl's side, asking if she's all right. But her only response is a weary sigh, her face shrouded in darkness. A wave of shock and horror washes over the remaining survivors. The officer suddenly collapses, his body torn apart from within. The girl praises his performance, her innocent act replaced by a manic grin. She reveals her power, turning the iron in his veins into deadly blades. Ishue Han realizes the horrifying truth. She's the real Senju, the true threat. She mocks their futile struggle, finding it hilarious they protected their own killer. With her hood down, she admits she's thrilled to watch them all suffer. Tenchi can only reach for his fallen partner, his face a mask of pure despair. He can only reach for his fallen partner, his world shattering around him. Senju mocks his despair, asking what a broken man can possibly do now. His last remaining officer is bound and helpless, unable to fight back. She offers a simple choice, beg for mercy or betray his entire team. But Tianti screams his defiance, vowing that the Star Alliance will prevail. With a flick of her wrist, she tightens her hold. He cries out in agony. She finds his suffering deeply satisfying, urging him not to die so quickly. With a sadistic grin, she prepares to deliver the final brutal blow, but a hand closes around a metal pipe, refusing to let the fight end here. Senju is caught completely off guard, her twisted game suddenly interrupted. Yishui Han grabs her weapon, stopping her attack cold as she questions his nerve. He realizes with a jolt that he can't even sense her power, meaning she's at least a B-rank threat. She gets uncomfortably close, offering him a front-row seat to the carnage for his kindness. He puts on a friendly face trying to reason with her and asking about her true mission. He then makes a twisted suggestion, turn him into a star beast to kill his own friends. She seems to consider it, ordering her men to feed the captured officers to a star beast core. But his knowledge makes her suspicious, and she demands to know if he's one of them. He quickly spins a lie claiming to be an underling sent to interrogate the officers. He recalls intel from his past life. The Stargazers are split into rival factions. He uses this knowledge to sow discord, but she demands proof, refusing to believe his story. He leans in close, spinning a tale of rival factions and sugary coffee. She seems to buy it, giving him a few minutes to handle his interrogation. But as he walks away, he deliberately kicks a small stone, a subtle signal. The sound alerts Senju, who whips around, demanding to know who's there. A projectile zips past, a perfectly timed distraction from an unseen ally. Yishui Han is stunned. He thought his friend had already escaped to get help. But it's just Ing Yuan trying to flirt his way out of certain death. Smooth. Senju looks down, amused by the boy's sudden and desperate flattery. She offers him a spot on her team with a rather painful-sounding transformation included. Yishui Han quickly steps in, claiming his little brother just has a weakness for pretty girls. He drags his friend away, promising to catch up with the villain later. But Senju is intrigued, curious to see how this interrogation plays out. She finds his courage amusing, excited to turn these boys into her next victims. Having escaped the train, Yishui Han quickly silences his chattering companion. Ing Yuan asks if they're being followed, a question our boy already knows the answer to. With a sharp gesture, he signals that one wrong move will be their last. His friend gives a mock salute, finally understanding the gravity of their situation. Meanwhile, Senju's henchman is completely baffled, wondering where his targets have gone. Back at the train, the captured officers face a horrific choice: consume the core or die. His partner can only watch in horror as the Stargazers begin their brutal work. Yishui Han confronts the henchman, claiming he has Senju's permission to interrogate them. He points to his brother in the shadows, trying to sell his flimsy cover story. The henchman whispers that Senju warned him about this kid, one of Morosu's men. Their orders are clear. Listen to whatever questions the boy has for them. The henchman agrees to talk, offering to share intel now that he's switched sides. He beckons Yishui Han closer, ready to whisper his valuable secrets. But as he leans in, Yishui Han's friendly mask drops, revealing a predatory glint in his eye. He grabs both their heads, smashing them together in a brutal, decisive motion. The henchmen cry out in pain, realizing too late they've been completely played. But the illusion shatters, revealing Ing Yuan, who finds the whole display a bit too dramatic. Yishui Han calmly praises his friend's hypnosis, asking if he's ready for another round. He grabs the others, urging them to run before their noise attracts unwanted attention, but a single deliberate footstep signals that their escape is already too late. Her demonic puppet questions Yishui Han's motives, finding his kindness suspicious. Senju agrees, convinced he was lying and eager to see what he's really up to. She stands over her fallen henchmen, confirming to her puppet that they were deceived. She sniffs the air, catching the scent of blood and knowing her prey is close. As they flee, Yishui Han senses danger, telling the others to be on guard. A taunting voice cuts through the air, asking if they were waiting for her. She appears above them on a thorny construct, promising a price for their deception. With a sadistic grin, Senju lifts a massive block, promising to crush them all. But Yishui Han shoves the officers away, declaring he'll take his friend and run. Ing Yuan refuses to abandon them, turning back to offer his help. Senju finds his bravery amusing, offering to help him be a true hero. She slams the block down, engulfing the officer in a blinding flash of light. She watches with a twisted smile, confident a true warrior wouldn't die so easily. But from within the prison, cracks begin to form as a powerful energy builds. A look of pure satisfaction crosses her face. Apparently, this was her plan all along. The officer bursts free, now wielding a golden sword and roaring with newfound power. Tianchi can only call out to his partner, stunned by this sudden transformation. Senju is impressed by the officer's new power, finding this turn of events quite amusing. But her game is over, and she declares that our heroes must pay for killing her men. With a cold, determined glare, she announces that their punishment is about to begin. Ing Yuan's courage evaporates, and he begs for his life, promising to do anything. She dismisses him as a useless loser, deciding to eliminate him from the game first. Ishue Han screams out, refusing to let his childhood rival die. He lunges forward to intervene, but he's far too late to stop her. With one target down, she turns to Ishue Han, promising he's next on her list. A brutal kick connects with his face, a painful reminder of who's in charge here. She sabers the moment, promising to make his end a slow and agonizing one. Her hand closes around his chest, ready to deliver the final blow, but her confidence shatters into pure disbelief and denial. She realizes with fury that she's been caught in another one of their illusions. The stargazer seethes, enraged that they would use such a cheap trick against her. Her panic grows as she realizes her demonic puppet is nowhere to be found. But then her eyes lock onto a new target, her rage finding its focus. High above, military helicopters descend, offering a sudden and impossible escape. And from the rope ladder, Ishue Han offers a taunt and a one-finger salute. Senju unleashes her fury, refusing to let her prey escape after being so thoroughly played. He scrambles up the ladder as a volley of dark projectiles closes in from below, but her rage is cut short as she senses another presence joining the fight. A sudden blast of wind slams into her, tearing at her with invisible blades. She can only grit her teeth as the attack shreds her clothes and her pride. From the helicopter, a new player unleashes a storm of razor-sharp wind. The white-haired man looks down with disdain, unimpressed by his ugly opponent. His wind blade dance engulfs Senju in a swirling vortex of pure destruction. Later, safely in the air, the man calmly reports that their target has escaped. Ing Yuan questions his methods, asking why he let the villain get away. The man blushes, claiming the shredded clothes were just a slip of the hand. Right. Ishue Han warns his friend to back off, reminding him this is Captain Wu Liang, who is not enjoying the gossip. Ing Yuan seethes, vowing a painful end for Senju if they ever meet again. He then reveals a little souvenir from their escape, Senju's demonic puppet. Ishue Han panics, realizing his friend just gave their enemy a million more reasons for revenge. Meanwhile, Senju stands over her fallen men, realizing her precious puppet is gone. And to add insult to injury, she discovers they also stole the Star Beast cores. Her rage twists into a sadistic grin. Next time, there will be no escape. Back on the helicopter, Ishue Han finally catches his breath after the chaotic escape. He reveals his own prize, a bag full of cores, enough to help his sister for a while. But a shadowy figure with glowing eyes appears behind him, demanding he hand them over. It's Captain Wu Liang, who suggests it's probably best if he takes those off our boy's hands. Ishue Han tries to play it cool, but knows he's outmatched and reluctantly agrees to hand over the cores. His friend, however, is less than thrilled, berating him for stealing the cores without a plan. Their bickering earns them a sharp reprimand from the pilot, who is clearly not paid enough for this. They finally arrive at their destination, a remote helipad for the 7th base. But Ing Yuan is confused, seeing nothing but an empty landing pad in the middle of nowhere. Captain Wu Liang simply waves them off, explaining this is as far as their VIP transport goes. Stranded, they're forced to take a bus, wondering how their escort could be so unreliable. Ing Yuan complains about the captain's flakiness, a sentiment Ishue Han silently agrees with. Their arrival by helicopter hasn't gone unnoticed as another passenger questions their connection to the captain. Ing Yuan immediately tries to buy their friendship, flashing his family's VIP card like a true professional. His new friend is completely starstruck by the display of wealth, but Ishue Han is thoroughly unimpressed. Another passenger scoffs, claiming the rich kid is from a weak family and only got in through connections. The new friend leaps to his defense, accusing the critic of being jealous of their newfound status. But their petty squabble is cut short as the driver screams in terror, heading straight for a cliff. The bus soars into the air as someone leaps out, shouting for the others to use their powers. Inside, chaos erupts as the recruits scream, convinced this is the end of their very short careers. But a powerful kick shatters the emergency exit, a glowing boot breaking through the ceiling. A long-haired student takes charge, ordering the others to activate their abilities and save themselves. Those with powers take to the sky, abandoning the falling bus and their less fortunate classmates. But many are frozen in fear. Their power is useless in the face of sheer, overwhelming panic. Inside, one of the powerless recruits can only scream, his life flashing before his eyes. But the fall stops, held in place by the long-haired student's glowing blue hand. Ing Yuan's new friend is more interested in a power analysis than actually helping. The student hero orders the others to climb out, pointing them towards emergency parachutes. As the evacuation begins, another student lands gracefully on the cliffside. He watches the chaos below with a cold, calculating expression. He spots a group of observers realizing this entire disaster is just a test. Not wanting to be outdone, he decides he can't let one hero steal all the spotlight. The blue-powered student finally gets the last person to safety, his energy nearly spent. With the bus now empty, he lets it go, sending it plummeting into the abyss below. But the calculating student unleashes his own power, creating a massive ice slide to catch the bus. He offers his creation as an escape route for anyone still stranded on the mountain. He smirks, confident this flashy move will earn him extra points in their little test. But his moment of triumph is cut short as he spots two students on the slide. The blue-powered student realizes they're directly in the path of the out-of-control bus. He unleashes a beam of pure energy, aiming for the wheels to stop its momentum. Together, he and another student manage to halt the bus just inches from their classmates. The ice wielder scolds them for interfering, clearly annoyed his grand plan was interrupted. He launches into a tirade, calling them all ungrateful losers for not appreciating his help. Their squabble is interrupted by a new arrival, their instructor, here to welcome them to the base. She explains their near-death experience was just a simple test of their abilities. The other recruits are immediately smitten, recognizing her as a vice captain. She explains that passing earns a star, and 3 stars will get them into the high combat team. She awards the first star to Ishuahan, praising his quick thinking and selflessness. With the evaluation over, she dismisses them to the dorms until the evening's pep rally. But the ice wielder confronts her, complaining that her judgment was completely unfair. He argues his ice slide was a perfect way to weed out the weak and help the strong. He gets in Ishuahan's face, demanding to know why he wasn't chosen as the best performer. The blue-powered student steps in, telling the entitled recruit to back down. But the vice captain shuts them all down, explaining that sacrifice is more valuable than a flashy display. The ice wielder seethes, vowing to settle the score with Ishuahan later. Later, Ishuahan and Ing Yuan settle into their new dorm room. His friend teases him about the beautiful instructor, but Ishuahan explains she saved his life. Ing Yuan complains about his own situation, but a mention of family is a sore spot for our boy. Ishuahan looks at a photo of his sister, his resolve hardening as he vows to see her soon. But their quiet moment is interrupted by a new recruit claiming his bed. Ing Yuan's solution, as always, is to just throw money at the problem, a plan that backfires immediately as the guy just takes the card and runs. With the drama over, Ishuahan reminds his friend it's time for the pep rally. They make their way to the auditorium, the next stage of their training about to begin. The base director delivers a rousing speech, telling the recruits they are the future of the world. He promises to show them the true horror of star beasts, but Ishuahan is already bored. His stomach rumbles loudly, a sound that doesn't go unnoticed by his new roommate. Ing Yuan produces a whole roasted chicken because, of course, he did. Ishuahan can only ask how, and his friend's answer is simple. Money talks, but their snack time is interrupted by a sudden violent image on the screen. The recruits watch in horror as a star beast tears through defenses with ease. A new instructor screams at them to shut up and pay attention to the carnage. He introduces himself as Sun Namu, explaining that fear is their greatest teacher. But Ing Yuan just scoffs, unimpressed by the rookie's terrified reactions. The video shows an A-class star beast, a creature of pure city-leveling destruction. Ing Yuan points out that even Ishuahan looks scared by the sheer power on display. But our boy's mind is elsewhere, calculating the value of such a powerful star beast core. He takes another bite of chicken, the delicious aroma filling the tense auditorium. The other recruits are suddenly distracted, their terror replaced by the overwhelming smell of food. But their little snack break has drawn the fiery wrath of instructor Sun Namu. Ing Yuan offers a rather moist apology, spitting directly in the instructor's face. The instructor's fury intensifies, promising a world of pain for this disrespect. He then turns on Ishue Han, who fails spectacularly at hiding the evidence. With knuckles cracking, Tsunamu issues a challenge: beat him or face the consequences. The other recruits whisper in awe, knowing Tsunamu is the base's top fighter. But another student leaps forward, his eyes glowing as he accepts the challenge. He throws a punch, but it's a feint, a hypnotic suggestion meant to control the instructor. But Sun Namu easily breaks the illusion, slamming the student into the floor. The defeated student is identified as Ing Yu Hung, a mind control psychic. The instructors note that while his D-level power is weak, his strategy is impressive. In fact, a battle report from Captain Wu Liang praised both him and Yi Shui Han. With one challenger down, Sun Namu turns to Yi Shui Han, mocking his apparent fear. He offers a deal: land a single hit, and he promises not to retaliate. But a massive wave of energy erupts from his leg, a clear sign this is no fair fight. But Yi Shui Han's punch is easily caught, his attack doing absolutely nothing. Later in the canteen, his reputation precedes him, the new kid who fought an instructor. The other recruits whisper in disbelief that a power type earned the first star. Yi Shui Han recalls that generative and summoning powers are considered far superior, but his meal is cut short as the ice wielder from before slams his hand on their table. His new friend leaps to his defense, but the challenger says he's only here for Yi Shui Han. As the argument escalates, Yi Shui Han calmly asks what the boy wants. He explains the first star is reserved for superior psychics and issues a direct challenge. Ing Yuan suggests solving this with cash, but Yi Shui Han wants to hear him out. With a confident smirk, Yi Shui Han asks what he plans to do about the star he earned. The challenger lays out his terms. If Yi Shui Han loses, he'll kneel and apologize. Yi Shui Han agrees, confident he'll be the one setting the terms when this is over. A crowd gathers for the fight, debating whether a power type can win without using his abilities. The challenger, Zhao, taunts him one last time, offering a chance to surrender with dignity. But Yi Shui Han just cracks his neck, ready to cut the talk and get on with the fight. Zhao then reveals his champion, a mountain of a man named Zhang Fei. He boasts that his fighter is a martial arts master, guaranteeing Yi Shui Han's defeat. The crowd erupts, calling Zhao shameless for sending a proxy to do his dirty work. But Yi Shui Han just smirks, beckoning the hulking fighter to bring it on. With a stomp of his foot, our boy signals that the fight is about to begin. The hulking fighter leaps into the air, promising a painful lesson with his powerful kicks. But Yi Shui Han's eyes are calm, completely unfazed by the incoming attack. A split second later, the martial arts master is screaming in pure, unadulterated agony. The crowd is stunned, with his friend noting that Yi Shui Han's moves are effective, if a little dirty. His opponent accuses him of fighting dirty, but Yi Shui Han calls it a valid form of physical art. Humiliated, the fighter abandons all pretense of honor and then begins to summon his animal companions. Yi Shui Han calls him out for cheating, pointing out that powers weren't part of their deal. But the summoner is past caring, ordering his spectral wolves to tear our boy apart. Surrounded, Yi Shui Han sees this not as a threat but as a chance to try a new technique. He recalls his instructor's lesson, focusing his energy for a powerful counterattack. He unleashes a powerful roar, a shockwave of pure sonic energy. The spectral wolves dissolve, and Yi Shui Han stands victorious over the last one. The crowd erupts, stunned that a power type just won using a B-rank technique. His challenger Zhao can only stare in disbelief, his pride completely shattered. He turns to flee, hoping to escape the humiliation of his very public defeat. But Yi Shui Han stops him, reminding him that a deal is a deal. His friends join in, mocking the sore loser for trying to run away. Yi Shui Han lays out his terms, a victory lap while screaming his praises. So he offers an alternative: 5 precious star beast cores, a price Zhao calls pure robbery. But a smug look reveals this was Yi Shui Han's plan all along. Yi Shui Han reminds the sore loser that he should have thought twice before picking a fight, but their argument is cut short by a furious shout from the vice captain. She declares they've broken the rules and sentences them all to confinement. Zhao desperately tries to talk his way out of it, pointing the finger at Yi Shui Han. He tries to pull the family card, explaining his own family is connected to hers. But she's not interested in his connections, telling him to honor the bet and face his punishment. Defeated, he reluctantly pulls out the bag of cores, his payment for losing the bet. He tosses the cores over, warning Yi Shui Han that this isn't over. Later in confinement, Yi Shui Han recalls the Wei family's name from his past life. But for now, he has the prize, another step towards saving his sister. Alone in confinement, Ishuahan decides to use his prize to get stronger. He confirms he can absorb the core's energy just by touching it. But his training session is interrupted by a frantic Wei frostfish. She sees the energy and asks in horror if he's already consumed the core. She grabs him, screaming at him to spit it out before it's too late. She warns him that absorbing a core like this is a death sentence. Leaning in close, she asks if he feels any side effects from the power. She's relieved he's okay, recalling how he almost transformed last time. She advises him to be careful, but he has a more pressing request. She finally realizes their compromising position, her professional cool completely shattered. He cheekily asks if she came all this way just because she cares about him. She insists it's about his potential, not wanting him to lose his star over a petty fight. He teases her relentlessly, honored by her special way of showing concern. She wonders why she's so invested as he promises not to disappoint her. She storms off in a huff, sentencing him to 3 days of confinement before fleeing. 3 days later, his time is up and Ishuahan is ready to be released. The door slides open and a voice announces his freedom, to which he seems indifferent. A man introduces himself as Ryu Heej, offering his services from the apparatus room, but a closer look reveals an intensity that belies his friendly demeanor. And Ishuahan recognizes him instantly, a face from his past he didn't expect to see. Ishuahan tries to leave, but Ryuhima-J is clearly offended by the brush-off. He grabs our boy's arm, asking if he wants to become a psychic. Later that night, a mysterious glowing butterfly flutters towards the dorms. Inside, it finds Ishuahan and his roommate fast asleep. The butterfly lands on Ing Yuan's head, sending him into a vivid dream. He dreams of proposing to Ichu, a bold move for a guy who just met her. He mumbles in his sleep, overjoyed by her supposed acceptance. The butterfly then moves to its next target, the sleeping Ishuahan. He's suddenly pulled into a vision of a ruined city, completely disoriented. A cold sweat breaks out as he realizes the gravity of what he's seeing. He finds himself surrounded by the dead, a vision of a future he's trying to prevent. His mind reels, questioning how this could have happened all over again. But then a familiar voice calls out, and his sister is standing right there. He rushes to her side, promising to take her home to keep her safe this time. But the nightmare repeats itself as a fatal wound appears on her chest. He can only scream her name, the same tragedy playing out in his mind. She cries out in confusion, questioning the cruel cycle of life and death. Ishuahan is frozen, trapped in the horror of his greatest failure. He holds her close, declaring their sins unforgivable and that they must both die. And from the ether, a shadowy figure watches, finding his suffering interesting. The dream invader notes Ishuahan's mind is already broken, making him an easy target. But his confidence wavers as he senses an unexpected presence within the boy's mind. Inside the nightmare, a familiar blue energy erupts from Ishuahan's core, and from that light emerges the S-ranked star beast, the true guardian of his soul. The beast unleashes a psychic roar, a clear and simple message to get out of its host's head. The mental assault throws Rahimigai back, his control completely shattered. Back in the real world, the Dreamweaver is located in a dark, secluded warehouse. The psychic attack has a very real, very painful consequence as he coughs up blood. He's stunned, wondering how this boy possesses the aura of an S-class star beast. A subordinate reports their plans are ready, but Ryuhima-J just grins, his interest in the boy now fully piqued. He eagerly awaits the next day's test, wondering what surprises Ishuahan has in store. The next morning, Ishuahan wakes with a splitting headache, the nightmare wiped from his memory. His roommate, however, is feeling fantastic after a lovely dream about beef soup, but his blissful morning is cut short by a sudden firm grip. Ishuahan yanks him out of bed, reminding him about the upcoming system test. Outside, Rahimigai waits for the recruits to assemble for their evaluation. Instructor Sunamu explains the test. Fight beasts and a device will reveal their power type. Ryuhima-J begins handing out the devices, but he seems to hesitate. A flicker of doubt crosses his face, a silent question about the task at hand. He calls out Ishuahan for being distracted, drawing a sarcastic jab from his rich kid roommate. Rahimiji's face twists in fury, a flash of recognition in his eyes. He hurls the testing devices at them, a clear message of his disdain. While the others argue, Rahimiji's sinister plan begins to form. The recruits enter the test site, completely unaware they're being stalked. An E-class star beast hound lunges from the rocks, its first target, a terrified student. But before it can strike, Han plants his foot ready to intervene. He meets the beast head-on, his fist crackling with raw, untamed power. A single punch sends the creature flying, a stunning display of strength. He glances at his bracelet, knowing the instructors are watching his every move. With his fist clenched, Han is ready to show them exactly what he can do. His display of power has earned him a small but very vocal fan club. But their admiration is cut short as a pack of star beasts descends on a terrified student. The ice wielder Zhao leaps into action, taking down the beast with a volley of ice spears. He scoffs at the others, clearly annoyed they came here to do anything other than watch him be awesome. He then boasts that his generative powers are far superior to any simple martial artist. Meanwhile, in the base monitoring room, the instructors are watching the whole show. Wei Frostfish and Sun Namu observe the recruit's performance on the main screen. Their focus is locked on Han and his rival, the two clear standouts. Sunamu praises Han's talent and decides to up the difficulty for everyone. Back in the field, Han asks a nervous student for help taking down a beast. The student explains his illusion powers are useless, lasting only 5 seconds. He's suddenly thrown to the ground, his limited power failing him completely. Han and his friend rush to help, asking what happened to the fallen recruit. But Zhao just looks on with disdain, telling them to see for themselves. The entire group is now surrounded, a pack of beasts closing in from all sides. Han realizes this is no random attack. The beasts are organized. He spots their leader on a high cliff directing the pack's every move. Thinking fast, he grabs the sword from the terrified student's hands. He flashes a confident grin, asking to borrow the blade for a moment. The student can only watch, wondering what a power type needs with a sword. With a powerful stomp, he launches himself directly into the fight. He uses a beast's head as a springboard, soaring high above the battlefield. He channels his energy into the blade, preparing to end this with one strike. A powerful slash of pure energy cuts through the air towards its target. His rival, Zhao, can only watch in utter disbelief from the sidelines. He screams in denial, unable to process a power type using a control ability. Meanwhile, back in the monitoring room, the truth is about to be revealed. Han's profile lights up, confirming he has both power and control abilities. The instructors are stunned. A dual power psychic is a complete game changer. But Wei Frostfish just smirks, knowing she's found the ultimate diamond in the rough. His friends are stunned by his dual powers, but Han tells them to shut up and focus. He realizes something is wrong. These low-level beasts are fighting with impossible intelligence. A massive shadow falls over him, signaling a much greater threat is near. His eyes widen in alarm as he senses the true danger approaching. A 3-headed devil hound appears, a C-class beast far beyond this test scope. He understands now. This powerful creature is the true commander of the pack. He plants his sword in the ground, preparing for a fight he can't win alone. Yuan calls out, his usual bravado replaced with genuine concern. Han screams for them to call the instructors. This test has gone horribly wrong. The beast unleashes a devastating energy blast, and our boy is directly in the line of fire. The students scream in terror as the C-class beast descends upon them. Its massive claw comes crashing down, ready to crush them all, but Izrahin refuses to run, moving to meet the attack head-on. He raises the borrowed sword, a desperate attempt to block the killing blow. The impact sends a shockwave, throwing the other students off their feet. But the cheap steel is no match for the beast's power, shattering instantly. Han can only stare at the broken hilt, his only weapon now useless. The devil hound snarls, smoke pouring from its 3 snarling maws. A single stomp sends the recruits scattering like bowling pins. So much for passing the test. Han screams a desperate warning for one of the students to get clear. But just as all hope seems lost, Zhao finally steps up to the plate. He unleashes a powerful blast attempting to deep freeze the C-class monster. His attack connects, encasing the massive beast in a prison of solid ice. For a brief moment, Zhao believes he's won, breathing a sigh of relief. But Han knows it's not over, proposing a truce to survive this. The student from before volunteers to fix the signal, buying them precious time. But their icy prison shatters, the beast's power far greater than they thought. Now free, the devil hound unleashes a devastating counterattack of its own. Han shouts a desperate plan, telling his rival to attack from above. But Zhao refuses to be a sidekick, creating a massive ice shield to block the blast. The massive energy blast is swallowed whole by Zhao's desperate ice shield, but the beast prepares another attack as Zhao feels his own power fading fast. Completely spent, his only thought is to turn and run for his life. But Ishuahan leaps into the void, sword in hand, ready to take his place. He brings the blade down from above, aiming for a decisive killing blow. The sword connects, but the beast's hide is far tougher than he expected. Gritting his teeth, he channels every last ounce of his strength into the attack. With a final desperate roar, he forces the blade deeper into the creature's skull. His attack finds its mark, silencing one head as the other screams in agony. With the job done, he kicks off the beast's back, landing with practiced ease. He's sent skipping across the ground, the force of the blow overwhelming him. He crashes to the earth, his body battered and his energy completely spent. Even after everything, he can only think of how he's failed to stop it. Another student screams for help, trying to rally a defense against the monster. But in the blink of an eye, the student is gone, leaving Ishuahan stunned. He forces himself to his feet, vowing to hold the line no matter the cost. He lashes out at one of the smaller beasts, refusing to go down without a fight. But just as he's about to be overwhelmed, a new ally blocks the attack. Ishuahan is shocked to see his old rival, Longwei Kai, standing before him. The rich kid reveals his trump card, a powerful glowing star beast core. Ishuahan is stunned, wondering how his rival got his hands on a star beast core. The student with the ponytail explains his plan. He'll use the core as bait to save the others. Suddenly, swarm of ethereal butterflies fills the air, a beautiful but ominous sight. But the plan goes wrong as the student collapses screaming in agony. Ishuahan watches in horror, realizing the boy is trying to speak but can't. He sees the student trying to swallow the core and screams for him to stop, but it's too late. A surge of dark energy erupts from the boy's body. The student screams, knowing that consuming the core means certain death. Ishuahan realizes the boy is being controlled, forced to consume the deadly artifact. The transformation begins, a monstrous mask forming as he cries out for the power he craved. The other students can only watch in horror as the boy is consumed by a dark astral energy. With his last shred of humanity, he cries out a final desperate warning about the base. Ishuahan screams for answers, demanding to know who is controlling him. But it's too late. The transformation is complete, twisting him into a monstrous new form. The newly formed beast man lunges, its first target the boy who tried to save it, but the C-class devil hound rejoins the fight, drawn by the surge of chaotic energy. Ishuahan realizes the beast still sees the transformed student as human, a fatal miscalculation. The devil hound unleashes a devastating energy blast as Ishuahan leaps to intercept. He's forced to channel all his remaining power into a desperate last-ditch defense. Knowing he's outmatched, his only option is to run and find help before it's too late. The student trying to fix the signal finally succeeds, his bracelet glowing with renewed power. But his celebration is cut short as a single glowing butterfly lands on his hand. Suddenly, loses control of his own body, his hand clamping tight around his throat. He's not the only one. Zhao and the others are also being controlled, forced to turn their weapons on themselves. The student struggles against his own grip, his mind reeling with confusion and terror. But just then, a sword flies through the air, a blur of steel and purpose. A new player enters the field, his hand glowing with a calming blue energy as he asks if they're okay. The spell is broken, and the students cry out in pain, finally free from the invisible puppet master's control. The newcomer offers a comforting hand, but the terrified student recoils, warning him to stay away. Jay realizes the horrifying truth. They were all being controlled at once, a sign of a powerful unseen enemy. Ishuahan puts the pieces together, realizing this was an inside job. The others are just grateful to be alive, asking how he figured it all out. The student confirms the distress signal is out, earning a quick nickname from our boy. A response from the base manager fills them with hope. They think they're finally safe, but Ishuahan knows better, realizing their bracelets have been compromised. He understands the mole is likely in the control room listening to their every word. So he plays a dangerous game, asking to speak directly to Wei Frostfish. But their moment of strategy is cut short as the devil hound returns, fully enraged. Ishuahan watches in horror as it absorbs its own severed heads to heal itself. Well, that's not something you see every day. With his eyes blazing, he rallies the others for one final desperate charge. He admits they're all at their limit, but losing is not an option. The devil hound lets out a final furious roar, lunging for the kill, but a golden scythe of pure energy intercepts the attack just in time. Wei Frostfish has arrived, promising to secure the area and end this nightmare. Ishuahan collapses in relief, his energy finally giving out. The other instructors arrive and the students celebrate their last-minute rescue. He explains the attack, warning her about the butterfly and a traitor in the base. The mention of a butterfly sends her into a panic, and she bolts. She realizes the true mastermind is a stargazer cadre, and the recruits were never the real target. Finding her too slow, Ishuahan scoops her up, ready to show off some new moves. Guess he's not that tired after all. She protests the high-speed piggyback ride, but our boy isn't exactly running an Uber service. They arrive at their destination, the base's high-security storage room. They both realize the attack was a diversion to steal the Star Beast cores, but they're too late. The door has already opened, the enemy inside. Inside, they find a familiar face, the base's head chef of all people. Chef Wang reveals his betrayal, holding the cores and mocking their failed pawn. Wei Frostfish demands to know why a 10-year veteran would turn traitor. The chef just laughs, threatening to transform into a beast to crush them both. But Ishuahan moves in a flash, his fist connecting before the chef can act. He stands over the fallen traitor, vowing to never let that nightmare happen again. In the aftermath, Ishuahan recounts the attack to the base's leadership, but an instructor named Guo Yiming has a pointed question. Why wasn't he affected? Ishuahan calmly explains that if he were the traitor, no one would have survived. The instructor explains that power types are immune, accusing Wei Frostfish of favoritism. But a higher-up reveals this was a coordinated attack and Ishuahan saved their base. The chief praises his efforts, calling him an indispensable asset to their forces. But outside, Ishuahan knows the official story doesn't add up. His thoughts are interrupted by a frantic man asking about his sister, Chu Chu. He grabs the man, demanding to know what's wrong as his worst fears resurface. The man explains her life isn't in danger, but they're short on the cores she needs to survive. Izrahin turns back, vowing to find a way to get the cores he needs. He bursts into the command room, demanding the reward he was promised. The instructor scolds him for his lack of discipline, but our boy is on a mission. He confronts the commander directly, explaining his sister's life is on the line. But Guo Yiming furiously denies his request, calling it a personal matter. Yishrahane calls him heartless, questioning how they expect loyalty without compassion. Wei Frostfish watches the confrontation, a look of concern on her face. She steps in to de-escalate, offering to handle the situation herself. Outside, she reassures him she has a solution, but he's not so sure. Back in the meeting, the commander orders his subordinate to drop it and focus on security. Wei Frostfish explains the cores for his sister will come from her personal supply. Issei-han is stunned by her generosity, his resolve to find more cores hardening. She reassures him that his sister will be fine, but he only wants to know when he can see her. She produces a hospital pass, telling him he can visit in 3 days. Overjoyed, he snatches the pass, grabbing her hand in his excitement. A flustered Wei Frostfish clarifies that her help comes with a condition. The commander's orders echo in her mind. Guide the rare dual psychic and keep him on their side. She looks him in the eye and tells him he's going to be her new assistant. Ishuahan agrees without a second thought, seeing it as a generous offer. Guess he's never had a real job before. He immediately gets in her personal space, asking if the job comes with a core-based salary. His friend Ing Yuan confronts him, calling him out for being completely unkind. The argument devolves into a chibi-style rant about wicked capitalists and blind obedience. Ishuahan fires back, accusing him of jealousy, which sends the rich kid into a tearful breakdown. Wei Frostfish finally cuts them off, reminding them to be grateful they survived the attack. Ishuahan questions the stargazer's true motives, suspecting a deeper plot. Wei Frostfish explains the legend of special cores that grant unique skills, the likely prize. With the core gone, she declares the base safe and tells Ishuahan it's time to get armed. As his friend takes charge, Ishuahan wonders if the core he absorbed gave him a special ability. He hardens his resolve, knowing he must hide his secret from the stargazers at all costs. Elsewhere, the instructor Guo Yiming reveals his true colors, furious that Ishuahan ruined his plans. A glowing butterfly appears before Guo Yiming, offering him a lollipop because that's not creepy at all. The instructor panics as a man named Morosu appears in his office, the source of the butterflies. Gui Yiming furiously explains the raid has put the entire base on high alert and now he's under investigation. But Morosu is just bored, disappointed that the Special Corps wasn't there. He reassures the traitor that he's just a phantom, as he was recently injured. Morosu then gives his pawn a new mission, find out everything about Yi Shui Han. Meanwhile, Wei Frostfish takes Yi Shui Han to the base armory, ordering the guards to open the doors. But a guard protests, explaining that newcomers aren't allowed to choose their own weapons. His partner quickly shuts him up, explaining that Yi Shui Han is about to be a big deal. Ing Yuan steps in, telling them to let him in as his success will bring glory to their base. But the ice wielder Zhao spies from the doorway, jealous of Yi Shui Han's special treatment. Wei Frostfish explains that only weapons forged from star beast materials can harm them. She details how a blade made from a beast's tooth can pierce their formidable hides. She introduces the 3 tiers of weaponry, basic, advanced, and the legendary divine class. The armory displays a range of weapons, from simple swords to high-tech firearms. She explains that divine weapons are crafted from the rarest and most powerful materials. He asks how to get one, and she suggests he just go kill a class beast. A casual Tuesday. With a bright smile, she tells him to go ahead and choose his new gear. His shui hand looks over the impressive arsenal, but his mind is set on a divine weapon. A look of pure determination crosses his face. He knows what he has to do. His eyes land on a single ominous blade, wreathed in a dark, chaotic energy. The sword's reflection dances in his eye, but something about it feels wrong. He raises a hand, a silent warning to stay back from the cursed weapon. But a hand on his shoulder snaps him out of his trance. Wei Frostfish asks if he's finally made his choice. With a determined look, he points to the dark blade, declaring it's the one he wants. But his rival Zhao lunges forward, screaming that the prize will be his. His hand closes around the hilt, claiming the weapon for himself. He holds it high, boasting that his wealth makes him worthy of such a blade. The armory guards burst in, screaming that the sword is a parasitic beast that controls its wielder. Wei Frostfish furiously asks the guard why he didn't mention this little detail earlier. The guard panics, claiming he just remembered and didn't expect anyone to be choosing weapons today. Yi Shui Han watches as the dark energy consumes his rival, who struggles against the cursed blade's influence. The shadowy tendrils burrow into Zhao's hand, the parasitic weapon claiming its new host. The possessed student screams at Yi Shui Han, accusing him of stealing a girl and vowing to kill him. He lunges forward in a blur of dark energy, as Wei Frostfish screams a desperate warning. But Yi Shui Han's eyes are calm, watching the incoming attack with an almost detached focus. In a flash, he pulls Wei Frostfish behind him, shielding her from the possessed student's rage. He shoves her to safety just as the attack connects, sending them both tumbling to the floor. Yi Shui Han grabs another sword from a nearby rack, wondering what has happened to his rival. He meets the attack head-on, his simple blade clashing with the cursed weapon. Wei Frostfish steps forward, ordering the guards to get behind her protective barrier. Yi Shui Han struggles against the overwhelming power, the dark energy of the sword pressing down on him. The guards confirm it's a divine weapon, but a cursed one that no one has ever been able to subdue. The force of the blow sends a shockwave through Yi Shui Han's entire body. He's sent sliding across the floor, barely managing to keep his footing against the assault. He's stunned by the sheer power, realizing this is the true strength of a divine weapon. But he's already formed a plan, telling the guards to protect everyone while he handles this. Wei Frostfish screams his name, warning him not to fight the possessed student directly. But Zhao is completely lost, laughing maniacally as he vows to end Yi Shui Han's life. But his basic blade shatters instantly against the overwhelming power of the divine weapon. With his defenses gone, Yi Shui Han realizes he's about to be cut down. But instead of dodging, he drops his broken hilt and reaches for the cursed blade. He catches the razor-sharp edge with his bare hands, stopping it just in time. The possessed Zhao can only stare as his killing blow is stopped by this impossible act. Blood streams from his palms, but he holds firm against the weapon's dark influence. The shadowy tendrils retract, the sword's chaotic energy suddenly subdued by his touch. The possession breaks, leaving Zhao completely dazed and confused by what just happened. The now dormant divine weapon clatters to the floor, its dark aura completely gone. Yi Shui Han kneels down to pick it up because finders keepers, losers weepers. He realizes the sword is afraid of his blood, a side effect of the core he absorbed. A look of pure determination crosses his face as an idea begins to form. He realizes he might be the one person who can actually tame this divine weapon. The dark energy begins to flow into him, a reverse possession of sorts. He grits his teeth, fighting against the overwhelming power of the cursed blade. With a roar of defiance, he demands the weapon submit to its new master.